Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is excited to be with you today. My name is Jeff Marquis, and I am the Director of TSAM Services. And I just want to have a quick overview of what we're going to be looking at today. This is a refresher for the AngelTree Distribution Management Toolkit. And this is where we are going to be focusing today specifically on the distribution side of AngelTree. We have a lot of people joining us today, and so we're going to give it just a minute or two for people to come on. But while we're doing that, I do want to highlight a few things that you'll want to be aware of. First is we are joined by our Director of TSAM Relations, Eduardo Rodriguez. He is going to be manning the questions. And so as we walk through the first 20 to 30 minutes of this, we're going to go over Distribution Management Toolkit configurations and operations. And then we are going to dive into some open-ended question and answer time for you to be able to ask questions. It is helpful if you know that you have some questions right now to go ahead and put those in the chat function. And so within this GoToWebinar, you have the ability to share your questions ahead of time. Eduardo is manning that, and we'll answer questions as it comes through. And then we'll circle back at the end to be able to answer questions and to be able to keep this moving forward and going very well. We're really excited about this toolkit. Just a little bit about myself. I know many of the people that are joining us today, but I have a long history with the Salvation Army as an employee and as an officer, and so I know very much what you guys are going through at this time of year, and I am grateful that you carved out some time to meet with us. And so I am very passionate about making things a little bit easier as much as we can, and we believe that this distribution management toolkit does just that. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen here so you guys should be able to see. And so as we jump in here, you are seeing the campaign configuration settings of in our test environment here, the Bay City, Michigan core. And so this is the core that we are. And so anyone, before we can use the distribution management toolkit, you have to configure the toolkit itself. And so what we're looking at here is the campaign settings for the Bay City, Michigan core. So right off the bat, the only people that have access to this are those individuals with the top level permission within AngelTree, and then that allows you to be able to configure the campaign. So within your campaign settings, a lot of this should look familiar to you, but all the way to the right, you'll see it. The last tab there is called Distribution Management. And as we do this, what is distribution management? It is a step-by-step tracking that you have to be able to track either the gifts or the angels, if you will, and as well as the family on distribution day. And this helps to track. I always like to draw the comparison of nowadays when you order from Domino's Pizza, and as you can see on my camera, I do it occasionally. And as we order this pizza, I see when my pizza's in the oven, I see when it's been checked, when it's being processed, when the person has left, when the delivery person is in my neighborhood. I'm able to see all along the way those steps. And so this does that very thing and much more to be able to lighten your load, both on a very stressful day, that is distribution day, as well as the days that follow, and you'll be able to see how this system not only helps you on the day of, but it also updates your applicants, wherein in previous years, you would have had to go back into the applicant and update them to be distributed. So what you're looking at here is the campaign settings for the basically Michigan core as a whole. Now, once I select distribution management, it's important to know a few things. First off is you are going to configure each one of your distribution sites independently. We understand sometimes, especially if you've got multiple counties that you serve, that your distribution is going to look very different if you're in one county versus another. And so each one of your campaigns are going to be, each one of your distributions, forgive me, are going to be configured independently. And so what you can see here, the very first thing you're going to do there is select a distribution site. In this setting, we have the distribution from the warehouse, and we have a distribution from the core itself. And so we're going to be configuring the distribution side of the warehouse. The other thing that you'll see periodically are two different terms. One is sorting, the other is distribution. Sorting focuses on the gift tracking, or as we would say, the angel, right? Each angel individually, whereas on distribution day, this is family tracking. We're going to be able to, through the barcode system, be able to update the family as a whole. And so because we are configuring the Bay City warehouse distribution site, we select that option, and then we also select the distribution date. Now I've set up a few things ahead of time. We're going to add one more so we can see how that works. But the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to check the statuses that you want to use. Now I will say you can do this system and it will make your life incredibly more simple. Even if you only use one status, and that is the distributed status at the end. We had North Texas area here at their large warehouse. That's the largest Angel Tree operation in the United States. They serve, this year, I think they have just over 36,000 angels they're doing in this area. Dallas is where I live. And in their Christmas warehouse, they had someone sitting at the door with the barcode scanner that simply scanned the bags as they went out and then was able to update the system. But we're going to show you here how you can do a little bit more with that. And I've already configured my first few options. That is for the Bay City warehouse. My family ready, checked in, needs attention. Now understand that these are statuses, but don't feel locked into specifically what they are. Maybe you use a different term for family ready. Maybe you use a different term for even for checked in, right? But understand that this is ultimately a status. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add the status of ready to pull gifts. So if you're coming in here for the first time, the first thing you're going to do is select one or as many options that you want. And the first thing you're going to do is I'm going to save my changes. Now, right here is where people get into, they miss a mark. And that's they've picked their options, but they haven't configured their options. They've selected their statuses, but they haven't put in where these are taking place. So if you scroll down, next thing you're going to do to configure this is to click configure checkpoints. And you're going to see this modal, this pop-up come up, and you're going to be able to enter in. You'll see the statuses here that we have entered, and then you have your checkpoint location. And so, so each one of these locations are you're going to want to make them independent of one another. You're going to want to make them unique. Because your volunteer, this system is designed to be used by a volunteer utilizing a mobile device, often their own mobile devices, to be able to come in and check and process these individuals through. All of this information will help to give them some tips, some clues in terms of what action that they are happening. So you can see I put the family box for when the family's complete, toy shop, back parking lot, and we will put the foyer here as the ready to pull gifts. So this is just a simple, helpful way for you to be able to set the checkpoint location for where that status is going to occur. The other thing you can do at this point is set the default order. Now on distribution, there are two locked settings, one of which is family complete. In the event you choose to use that, that will always be your first option. And secondly is distributed, which is required to be used to use the Distribution Management Toolkit. That will also always be the last option. But in between there, you get to set the anticipated order of operations. So perhaps you're going to want them to check to see if needs attention before they even got checked in. And so you can simply click and drag and adjust these options around as you see fit to set the order of these internal statuses, these internal checkpoints, if you will. I also want to highlight here the few additional options that you have. The first of which is when someone checks in. So oftentimes we have volunteers that come into our operations, to come into our Angel Tree, and they don't, we've been encompassed with Angel Tree for months, and this person is coming in fresh and just simply wants to help. And so what we want to do is we want to give them a few helpful tips to be able to say, indeed, how is it that we are processing this? How is this happening? The first option that you can set is set a reminder that this applicant must come on the day of the applicant. And this is you, maybe in your operation, even though they have a scheduled appointment time of 2 o'clock or 11 o'clock, they can ultimately come at any point on that day. If that's the case, you would select this first option. All that means is if I show up on a day that's not the one that I'm scheduled to come on, instead of the web app, which I'll show you shortly, instead of that being red, or green, it's going to be red, right? Stop and go. Secondly, I can say not only do you have to come on the same day, but you have to come within a certain time frame of your appointment, and you get to say what that is: 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 120 minutes. you get to say exactly how close that's allowed to be. But understand that both of these options are warnings, they are not barriers, which means that the person that's checking them in, even if it's red, they still have the option to check in. It just simply is notifying them that, hey, something is outside the ordinary, something is outside of what we would expect to see. We just want to make you aware of that. The other here is at the bottom where upon distribution, and this is going to be required, and if you're going to use this option, you need to have a mobile device that's able to be or addressed by the applicant themselves when they're there picking up the gifts. But one thing that happens, I think, in every campaign that I've seen is some type of action by the recipient saying, I've received my gifts. A lot of times that is simply a piece of paper. I know many locations that take the warehouse labels that you print off from Angel Tree and have them just sign the piece of paper, and you keep those in a stack. And then if you ever have an issue, you have to go comb through hundreds of different pieces of paper to be able to find the one in question. This one here is on that given time, it gets tracked with the applicant where they can sign with their finger the same way they signed their application when they submitted it for Angel Tree. It's a really simple option. So once you set this order of operations, I'm ready to go. I can simply click save, and this will update here. The easiest way for you to know is, have I set up my system correctly, is to look here at the checkpoint location, and do I have a value in every item in this column? If there's a blank section here, that means you need to enter in a few sections. So remember, this is the distribution settings for just the Bay City warehouse. When we want to set up the Bay City core or however many other distribution sites you have, you'll simply come to the top section here, click the next distribution site, and then you'll go through. This is what it would look like when you come in right from the very beginning, where nothing's been selected. So we're at the Bay City warehouse configuring this distribution. Again, we're on distribution, the family tracking. I just want to show a couple other options down here as we work our way through. The first of which, we have some quick links to our FAQs where we answer lots of questions about this process, about what's going to happen. But what really we want you to focus on here after you're done configuring is at the very bottom here is this system uses what's called the Distribution Sites web app. So it's a web application that your volunteers will be able to come, enter in their name, take a picture so we can see who that person is that's performing that action, and be able to go ahead and show this through. An easy way to do this is at the very bottom, you can click this option here where it says render a full page item. And so you can take this, you can print it out, literally just stick it on the walls of your distribution site, and through a QR code with their own mobile device, they can go ahead and simply enter in that item, scan in, and be able to access the system. When they access the system, it's going to look like this. Now, I've shrunk this down because I really want to hit home that this is designed to be used on a mobile device. As you can see, I'm on a laptop. It can very easily be done from a computer, but it's designed and is meant to work very closely with a mobile device. And so when they log on, they're going to see this, and they're going to have a chance to enter in their name and take a photo. So I'll go ahead and enter my name in. And when I'm ready to go, I'll choose a photo. Now, I've already logged in. So what happens is when I select distribution family tracking, it's going to say, hey, you've logged on. There's already someone with this name at this location that's came on with the same user. Is this the same person? And if it is, I simply click yes. If no, I have to go back. And this is the one thing that you might need to help your volunteers. We do tell them but they'll need to specify their name slightly different. If you have two John Smiths, one's going to have to be John A. Smith. The other one could be John B. Smith. You just have to have some type of differentiation between the two names because the system is looking for a unique first and last name. But you can easily do that. And when I'm ready, I just simply click yes. Now, before we do this, or as we jump in, I'm going to show you a couple things on this screen. So the first thing that you have here is select checkpoint. Remember, we configured all of those different locations. We configured all of those statuses and where they were happening. Those all now appear on this list. So we're able to tell the volunteer, you're going to be in the toy shop for the needs attention area, right? You're going to be in the toy shop, so I can simply select toy shop, and I'm ready to go. Now, how do I check in the angels? That is down here where you can scan or enter the family code. Now, which is the family code? I want to quickly shift here and show you this. On the left, you are seeing an angel tag. If you utilize the barcodes, your angel tag is printed at the bottom of your angel tag. Looks just like this. On the right here is the corresponding family tag for this angel. You can see that there are two barcodes here. So on this warehouse label that you get to by going to the applicant records page and printing those warehouse labels, I know many of you already utilize this. This barcode that's within the angel, this is the one that's going to bring you for sorting, for family tracking. But on distribution day, when you're wanting to process these through, you are going to use this barcode at the very top. When you're entering in this information, you have one of two ways to do that. The first of which is this. This is a simple Bluetooth barcode scanner that you can get from Amazon. Eduardo, if he hasn't done so already, is putting in the chat some links to Amazon. I went online and looked. The most expensive one I found was $40. Many of them are cheaper. They are Bluetooth. This one here in my hand cost me $32. It has a time frame of 30 hours of runtime, and it connects wirelessly to my mobile device. So it connects in this setting on this call. It's connected to my laptop. It's connected as if I would an external keyboard. But if I'm on a mobile device, it connects to my phone. There's no cords. There's no construct of Wi-Fi needed. This system does not need to be connected to Wi-Fi because if you use a mobile device, because you have data and you only need basic data. One of the biggest questions we get is, do I have enough bandwidth? If I use data, do I have enough to be able to use this system? And if you want to check that, the easiest thing you need to do is to go on your phone, wherever your warehouse is, and click and go to Google and search anything. Search a wonderful Christmas cookie recipe. And if it brings back results, you have plenty of bandwidth to be able to handle this operation. But as we come in here, when I'm ready to go, I'm going to use my barcode scanner, or I can type in the code. If I'm typing in the code, remember over here, I'm going to type in this code here, WHSE3. Now, please make sure you type in the abbreviation beforehand, not just the number. So if I come here and type in WHSE3, and I click enter, it's going to bring me in and show me this information here. We also have the option, because I want to use the barcode, to simply scan. I'm looking at the information, and now I'm ready to jump in. So what I'm looking at here is this family, Paul B, has one child, Stephen, which has been fulfilled. They're ready to go. And not only that, but if you utilize the distribution or the sorting component of Distribution Management Toolkit, you can mark that they have oversized gifts. If you don't, and you just want to remember, you come down here into notes. And so this is where you're going to put in some additional information. So I can say this person has a red pickup truck. And that way, as this individual moves through the process, we're able to better quickly identify what the next status is. Now, as we scroll down, you'll see here, this is going to, remember we set the order of the statuses, it's going to try to anticipate the next status. We want to cut down on as much time as possible. And if that's the case, we simply click ready to pull gifts. Now, if I do need other options on your phone or on your computer, you can just simply click show other options, and I can see all of the options that I've configured. But in this setting, I'm simply going to click ready to pull gifts. And now I'm already ready to go ahead and come back in and scan my next one. And I can just simply work my way through, continually moving on and on as I go through. So when I come in, this is the individual. As I come through, I can see the individual. Now this Paul is back and ready to pull gifts. And I'm ready to go ahead and address the item. Does it need attention, or is it ready to go out the door? Now, you may say to yourself, well, how in this case am I supposed to know the statuses of all of these individuals? How do I know how can I know from my seat as the commanding officer, as the entry coordinator, where are these in the process? And you're going to do that through the distribution dashboard. You're going to get that by going under admin, and coming down to distribution dashboard. And what you're looking at here is actually, think of, and I know everywhere on this call might not have the privilege of living in a city where there's a Chick-fil-A. I do, I'm in Dallas, I lived in Atlanta. When you go to Chick-fil-A, up on the board, you get a number, right? And it tells you, like, my order is in queue, it's in line, it's ready to be pulled, It's out, it's prepared. I'm able to see on the board where this is happening. This is what this is able to do, right? In this setting, I can say this is going to automatically update every 30 seconds, but I can see from my seat as the administrator, from my seat as the Angel Tree coordinator, from my seat at the core, because maybe I'm not at distribution and I want to check in on another distribution site and see how things are going. I can look in and see exactly how long or how process is going. So I can see here, this is the individual, this Paul that was checked in. We're ready to go. We can see that he has been in this status for 1 minute and 38 seconds. We can see how long it is. If I come in here and I see, well, this individual needs attention and they've been there for an hour, they've been there for 25 minutes, I'm able to drill in a little bit more as I look at this dashboard. Now, this can be used in one of two ways. It can be used on a computer as someone is actively monitoring and looking at, but it can also simply be put on a TV using a projector, stick it on the wall, and then your volunteers are able to see what happens. So that way, when someone comes and gets checked in, they automatically see, oh, here it is. There's the information, there's the family code. I can simply send someone to go get it. There's no more walkie-talkies. There's no more having to deal with, can I hear the walkie-talkie over the Christmas music we're playing because we want to make people happy at Christmas time. You don't have to worry about these burdens. You can simply look and say, oh, they're here. Or if you utilize the ready to pull gifts, oh, Paul has entered in the ready to pull gifts. I can automatically send someone to go do that. Now, how do I, if I want to send someone, I can come over here to this box and I can actually assign a gift puller. So I can say, okay, Brian, you're going to go get that angel code. So if I'm Brian, I don't even have to be talked to, right? This is stressful enough. I can simply say, oh, there's my name. I got to go get WHSE 5. And I can go straight to that spot and I know where to bring it to. The other thing that you can do from this is to be able to see where am I at in the process. Now, I do want to share that this is a test environment. So I'm not going to have the volume of records that you have, but you do have this option here under statistics to go ahead and look and see how many families are in the various statuses along the way. So multiply all these numbers by 500, and maybe that's going to get closer to what some of you guys are going to experience. But you're able to see halfway through the day how many families still have yet to come up. How many families are waiting in checked in? Maybe you've got a really long line. You just want, how many people are waiting to check in? I've got 25 people that have been checked in and waiting to move to the next status. Then you can get on the walkie and tell the person checking in, hey, hold on, don't check anyone else in. We have to catch up a little bit. You're able to do that by looking at these statistics. You can also use these statistics from another seat. From looking somewhere else, you're able to better see the process as it goes through. So as we go through, you can see this updates. Now let me jump back to our web app, and I want to come back to this individual here. So Paul, the gifts are ready. I'm the volunteer walking out the door, and when I'm ready to, I'm going to go. I don't need attention. I want to mark them as distributed. Now, one thing I want to do here is, before I do that, let me jump over here, and I'm going to jump back. So you can see here, because we have opted for them to sign, they are going to be presented. Now, you cannot mark them as distributed until they've signed. If you haven't opted for that, there still is a confirmation, because this does update other elements in the system. So when I'm ready, I can simply click on this system. I'll sign my signature. I'll apply the signature, and once it's been applied, you can see here the date and time that it was signed, and then when I'm ready, I'll click Confirm Distribution. All right, you get a warning. This is like, are you sure? Because in doing so, it is going to mark this family as distributed. And in order to undo that, you have to be an administrator, an Angel Tree administrator. So it's just kind of an are you sure? It's not that this action can't be undone, but it can't be undone by the volunteer in question. So Paul has been marked as distributed. Now, if I come back, this is Paul's account here. And if I refresh, you can see now he's automatically been updated to a status of distributed. This is what we're finding is one of the great benefits of this system, because now in years past, and people who aren't on this call are going to have to go back after distribution day with their big stack of papers and go one by one and mark these families as being distributed in the system. And this is key, especially if we're talking to people from the Central and the Western Territory. This integration with community services is going to require these individuals to be marked as distributed. Maybe in years past, you didn't deal with that and you're like, I'm not going to go back in the system and check. Well, we would advise you against doing that because there's real benefits in being able to see ongoing stats from year to year. But also, that's going to be required from territorial headquarters in order to integrate with community services. We have to be able to mark them as distributed. So I come back to my dashboard. Now I look at my statistics and I can see I've got that one family that's been distributed. All of this happens in the process. And I did bring you through utilizing 5 different statuses on distribution day. Really, this can be done with just the 1 or 2. So the last thing we want you to do is have to do more work than you feel like you need to. But this really, through configurations, which you saw takes no more than 5 minutes, does prepare you to save significant amount of time on distribution day, helping you have better visibility, especially in those larger operations, and being able to come through and see how things are going. So this is distribution, and this is only half of it. Eduardo shared the full distribution webinar that we did last year that highlights the sorting component. Excuse me. So it highlights these information. You can go back and refer back to that for that first component. But here we're able to see and we're able to process through these elements and really be able to improve your angel tree operation, make you efficient, save time, give you more time, and really what we want to be doing, and that is loving on the people that come to us for assistance. I'm really excited about this, and I hopefully are able to use this. So we are going to open up the field here, We're going to open up to allow for some questions. So there's 2 ways in which we can answer some questions, and I'm going to, as much as possible, we are going to limit this to Distribution Management Toolkit. We know that there are other questions that do happen. Eduardo, I believe, has put in the thread, if he hasn't so already, the link to the support email if you have non-distribution questions. But here we're going to be able to go in, excuse me, and be able to answer some questions. And you can do that in one of 2 ways. You can, in the chat session, be able to go through and enter your question there in the thread. You can also raise your hand. And so if you want to ask a question, whether it be in person or in writing, so go ahead and do that now. I'll go cycle back to our campaign settings here to kind of highlight back a few things. I'm going to rely on Eduardo, who's going to help me see if there's hands raised. I do see one, so I'm going to unmute you. This is Stephen Frederick. Stephen, do you have a question? I just unmuted. I think you still need to unmute on your side, but I allowed you to be unmuted.
Yes. So our distribution day is a little bit different than what you're describing. So I wanted to know what you'd recommend. So what we do is we check our family members in, and then we have them wait, and then a volunteer calls their number, and then the volunteer basically brings them out into the main area to go shopping with them, so they go pick out what gifts they want, and then they check out at the end. So kind of what you described might not apply everything we do. So I just wondered what your recommendation would be in that.
Yeah, so it sounds like you use a toy shop model, which is not uncommon. And so I would utilize 2 components. I would utilize check-in and distribute. I keep putting the wrong emphasis in the area. So I would use the check-in feature. So the check-in feature allows you to maintain order. My mom, I lived in the Central Territory for a really long time. My mom was a social worker, the caseworker at 3 different corps there in the Chicago area. And I've been to her distribution and who used a toy shop. And sometimes people want to get first in line. They want to be able to kind of, because their kid really wants X, Y, or Z, and they think if they get in front, it's going to help. So I would utilize 2 components. One, the check-in. That's going to do 2 things. One, it's going to help you know who genuinely is next, rather than maybe having to use a ticket system, rather than having to use something that maybe introduces human error. It literally is a digital system is going to tell you, but also that's going to allow you to see how long somebody's waiting. And so sometimes you're going to be able to go on and say, this person has been here for 45 minutes and still hasn't come in. It helps you from your seat to be able to say, do I need to move this faster a little bit, right? Do I need to maybe, as much as we can, usher people along in a loving but quicker way through the process. And then I would use the distribution tag at the end after they got their gifts. They're walking out the door, scan that. If you want to use the signature, you can. And then that updates you in the system. So now you don't have to go back in the system and update them, and you'll be squared away.
So I was playing along with you as you were doing yours on my end. And I noticed that if you only pick check-in and you don't pick any other options besides check-in and distributed, when you go to the configure checkpoints option, it doesn't have two labels. It only has the label for distributed that you can put a checkpoint location in. It doesn't have a checkpoint location in for check-in.
Okay, let me check on that. That sounds strange. Well, I'll have to look at that. I don't want to do that on this call. Do me a favor. In the chat, Stephen, can you tell me what location you're at?
Yeah.
So, yeah. We'll follow up with you right after this so I can find out what's happening there. We could take the rest of the time just trying to dive into that if we needed to. It should automatically just go ahead and show those two options, but those would be the two I would recommend. Okay. There's not anything else that I would recommend in a toy shop model because you don't have the nature of pulling gifts or needs attention, things along those lines. All right, kind of moving up line. Robert Fortney, if you are an officer, this doesn't always tell me if you're an officer, forgive me for leaving that up. So Robert, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, I'm an administrative assistant here in San Diego, California.
Okay.
So I just wanted to ask, can we simply just use mark as distributed without having to mark family is here or anything else? Like the family shows up, we give them the bag, and then we just put mark as distributed. Can we just do it like that?
So let me show you here how that would work. I'm gonna instead of being on the warehouse, I'm gonna go on the Bay City core, and I'm gonna go to the distribution day, and all I'm going to do is I'm only going to use I just want to use go ahead and get this squared away. I'm going to configure my checkpoints. We'll get that squared away, and then you'll only configure this distributed component here and be able to back up and get squared away. And so we will be able to update that. So if I come here and be able to get that squared away, you would only use the distributed and get that updated for you.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
yeah,
thank you.
And that's what I think I shared with you. That's what North Texas did with their main warehouse there in the Dallas County area. And they simply had someone at the door with a barcode and be able to automatically updates them and marks them as distributed as it works through.
Yep. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. All right. Nicole Greenland, you have a question? Oh, perhaps. I think your hand was there a second ago, and then it just went away. And so if you have a question, we'll go ahead and cycle back through this. A couple other options here as we go through. Just a reminder that you're able to come in and be able to see from my distribution dashboard this information that comes through. I can see this information that these individuals have been checked in, the oversized gifts. This is really designed to work in tandem with the sorting aspect of the distribution management, but it's not required to do so. And so we're happy to answer those questions. Nicole, you have a question. I think you raised your hand. So you're able to be unmuted. You just need to unmute yourself. And then you can ask your questions. So you looked like you were unmuted for a little bit there, Nicole, but then you got remuted. And it looks like you're unmuted on my end, Nicole. You should be able to speak as long as your computer's picking you up. All right, I think we might having some technical difficulties with Nicole, so I'll just leave her there. But it looks like Cheryl, Germany, you have a question. Let me unmute you. All right, Cheryl, you should be able to unmute and ask your question.
Hi, I'm sorry if I missed this. Where do I access the barcode that
sorry.
can be printed? I'm actually in TSAM right now.
Okay, yeah, so your barcode is a couple options, right? So when it comes to the family side, what we recommend is if you go under your applicant records, when you go to print, there's this option here that says print warehouse labels. And now we do recommend that you not, if you do have hundreds, I recommend that you don't print any more than 100 at a time. But here you can go ahead and you just click this to print the warehouse. It'll tell you that here I'm going to print 11 warehouse labels. And if I click confirm, when I do print it, it's going to look like this. And it's going to be a series of pieces of paper that has the barcodes on them. And what we find is people use these in their warehouses to put on in the boxes, to put them on the slots, wherever those bags are going to go, for a couple reasons. One, they can easily see how many kids are supposed to be in this area. They can, if they do need to fill a bag, those needs and wishes are already listed there on the warehouse, and then also the barcodes are there available. Because sometimes when people will adopt online and not actually print off the barcode angel to bring back, and so by doing that, even if you don't use the barcode because the barcode's not there, you can enter in the information by entering this WHSE2B. On my phone, it's really easy. I can use the voice to text, and it brings it up really easily. Did that answer your question, Cheryl?
Yeah, actually, and I realized I didn't phrase my question properly. I really was inquiring about the QR code for the volunteers to scan.
Gosh. Okay.
My apologies.
No apologies necessary. Listen, I have integrated those words all the time. So there's actually a few ways you can get that. From the very beginning, you're going to find that in your campaign settings. So if I come to my campaign and then I go to distribution management, remember your barcode's, sorry, I just did it right there. Your QR code is going to be different for each distribution site you have. And that's going to be at the very bottom of the screen on click to render full page image of this barcode. And that's you here. You can simply print from file or Control P. Now that's only one way. Another way is actually, sorry, not done this here, is from the web app itself. So let's say you're blessed and you have a lot of angels and you've got a really big warehouse, and to scan the piece of paper that's put on the wall, it's 75 feet away and I don't want to go that far. But I've got other volunteers around. On my web app, in this on this menu drop down here, there's an option that says QR code. And so on my mobile device, forgive me, I think I timed out for a second. So when I click the QR code, it's going to pull up that QR code on my mobile device, and I can just scan it right from the person next to me. Or I can also copy and send the link via text if that's an easier method. Sometimes our volunteers are even though it's 2023 and I think every single menu now is a QR code. When you go out to eat, you do have the ability to send a text message if that's easier. So those are the ways you can get the QR code. You can also get that from the on the dashboard itself. So as I'm on here, I can copy and I can click here to render that same file from my the dashboard itself. I can also use this option here to see an overview of what is there from my seat. I can be able to see all of the information that's covered. Does that answer your question, Cheryl?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Absolutely, happy to help. All right, Eduardo, if there's any, I know Eduardo's been monitoring the questions that have been submitted. I think there's a few, there's another hand raised down here. So Stephanie Wanacott, I believe is how I pronounce that. So Stephanie, you're able to be unmuted and ask your question.
Thank you. I'm not sure if I missed it, but when you check a family in, does it put them in order of the way that they checked in?
It puts them in order based on the amount of time that they are there, based on when the action was taking place. Sorry, when you talking about the display order that's on this dashboard?
So say I have, yeah, so say I have like 5 people come in and then like say 20 minutes later, 5 more people come in, it's going to put the first 5 that checked in first at the top, right?
So you have the option to sort this out however you want. And people have different methods to their madness, as you might say. So you might say, I want to see things in alphabetical order. I want to see things based on the appointment time. I don't care what time they get here. I wanted to address the time frame first. If you want it to be in the order of the newest, one thing just a little tidbit for TSAM, anything that's blue in TSAM is clickable. So all of these columns here can be sorted. And so if I click this and sort this column, it will keep everything in the order of the most recent as it refreshes. And these columns, as it refreshes, will be maintained. So here, if I click refresh, it's still going to be sorted by this column. And so you're able to set the order that you want it to be displayed on the screen.
Okay.
Yep. You're also, in case there's lots of different use cases, there also is filter options. If you wanted to set to, I know we're going to see all these things, and I know I can drill in if I need it, but I only ever want to see, we're only utilizing these 2 statuses, and so I always want to see checked in. Under the filter option, we can go ahead and set those standards squared away. So you can really treat this as you would any report that you see in TSAM to be able to filter and sort and those components.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right, so I know I see there's not any more hands, so I'll hold on a little bit more, share a couple things. Let me take a quick look at the questions here to see if there's anything that is worth highlighting. I know Eduardo's been monitoring that. Eduardo, if that helps, if you want to unmute and tell me if there's anything I should address from within the chat options there, that would be benefit. A lot of times those questions tend to be specifics for a given location. And so we'll be able to handle that. And so we're going to keep going here. We're at about 45 minutes. We will stay as long as we need to be able to make you guys comfortable. If we can make your days a little less stressful, by all means, we will do so. And so I'm not seeing any new hands right now. And so we'll keep sharing through. I'll do a quick refresher for anyone who maybe missed at the very beginning. Your distribution settings are managed under your campaign settings. So you go into the campaign. So this maybe goes without saying, but remember that you have to have access to the campaign. Sometimes we have people on calls that their permission level in Angel Tree doesn't actually allow them to do a certain action. And so understand that these components are here. This distribution management is underneath your campaign settings. And so here, as it comes over, my distribution management, excuse me. And then once I select distribution management, I have to make 2 subsequent choices. I have to choose my distribution site. In this case, you have the warehouse or the core, the Bay City warehouse or the Bay City core. And then also, am I configuring my sorting or my distribution day? One thing, and as we go through, this is when you're going to select the statuses that you want to use. I will add one so that I can update that. I'll click Save Changes, and then make sure I go in and configure my checkpoints. You can see here an easy thing. Remember, I said an easy way to remember is if I've configured everything, is there a blank in this column? I can see here by looking at that hold does not have any options. And so I can go in here, I can configure my checkpoint, and I can check that the hold is going to be in the lobby. I can say hold is also going to be after they checked in as a way to do this. Stephen, just a little thing that comes up. This is also a status that you may or may not want to utilize. It allows you to put someone in hold in the event that they've checked in, but maybe they're really early and you don't want to move them forward, or maybe they're addressing an issue or a question. So that they've checked in, but you kind of place them in a holding area to let them know when they're ready to go ahead and move forward. And then once I use that, and it will go through, and I'll click Save and be able to move forward. And now everything is configured correctly. I can come back and remove any of these options. Let's say I decide not to use the option for needs attention. I can simply unclick that, and then it gets removed from my options. And so this is a simple way here for you to be able to manage that and be able to handle all of these components as I go through. I can go ahead and save all of these options. And so So now I come in, I only have distributed. This is the option that we're talking about here under distributed, where now as I come in and I want to use these checkpoints, the only option is distributed. And then if I go in and remove this option from the family being, if I don't want that to be set, so now there's no interaction. This is that volunteer who maybe can't stand as long, that volunteer that maybe really wants to participate and wants to have a key role, but maybe doesn't have the ability to go grab and carry bags. You can do this, set them up, have them scan it on the way out the door, and it automatically updates your system in the applicant. That way, at the end of the day, I always share this story because it's something that I had to do. My wife ran all things Angel Tree, and she was brilliant at it. But one thing we had to do at the end of every single distribution day was walk through the entire warehouse with a pad of paper and a pen and going through and writing down all of the angels that didn't get picked up. And I'm going to go through and write these codes, and I come back. Then they go in and they have to filter and mark as distributed and go in and call all of the people who didn't pick up. There's a whole process that can be cut down into a fraction of the amount of time by using this distribution toolkit. And so if I mark them as distributed, I can very easily, right off the bat, simply go into my mass communications tool, and that's not the purple. I can go into mass communication tool and send an email to everyone who's not in distributed and not in draft. So I can target those emails. I don't have to call every single one of them. I can send a text as well and be able to say, you did not pick up your angels today. Please pick them up by Friday if you want to receive gifts. You get to set that standard. But here you can do that, and I can get that text message out within minutes of distribution being completed, as opposed to staying late and doing everything by hand and then being able to call the ones that didn't get picked up. And so this is a really helpful way for you to be able to cut down on your amount of time. As Eduardo knows, I will talk and I will be here forever and talking about this because I really appreciate this, but I'm not seeing any new questions that come up. And so hopefully that's a good thing that we've gone through and covered all of the necessary components. Just a reminder, if you have questions about this webinar, two things. This is being recorded. This was recorded, and we will circulate this to all the webinar participants to be able to review. This will also get added to our YouTube playlist that many of you, if not all of you, are familiar with. Additionally, there's information. If you have specific questions, you can contact tsamsupport@dataparadigm.com to be able to ask specific questions. This is often things that are specific to your questions. And do not hesitate to be like Stephen. And if you have, this is my scenario, what do you recommend, right? This is a new component. This is something that we are really proud of, and I've been around a long ways and I can help you do this. I can help you strategize around distribution management to be able to help save some time, save some effort on your volunteers and your employees that this time of year are stretched beyond belief. And so don't hesitate to reach out and contact us should you have any questions or should you need any tips or suggestions. We'll happily help you out there. I'm not seeing any questions. I'm not hearing anything from Eduardo. But we're going to hang on for a little while longer in case something comes up. But for now, the webinar is about completed. Thank you guys so much for your time. We are here to help. We know the challenges that you guys are facing this time of year, and if we can help that in any way, we will. So please go ahead and reach out and ask us any questions that you may have. So I'm going to hang out. I see there's a few more questions coming in that are there. But again, if you want to ask a question in person, just raise your hand through the interface. But if not, thank you all. Have a great rest of your day. Eduardo and I will hang out and be able to answer questions as they come up. Thank you all, and we wish you have a blessed rest of your week and rest of your season.
Hey, Jeff, we have a question about someone wanting to do a dry run.
Yeah, I just saw. Okay, so there was a question about doing a dry run. That can easily be done if you use what I would say use fake angels. Simply go ahead and go in and put 1 or 2 applicants. You don't need very many because you can always mark them as undistributed. Create create a few applicants, make sure you get them into admin approved status, right? So you're gonna have to give them a distribution appointment. You're gonna have to get to that point. But once you get there, you'll be able to walk them through the process and be able to see how that is. But yes, that's the easiest way to do that. You can always, once they're distributed, go in and mark them as undistributed and remove those angels as to not confuse your numbers. But that would be a way that you can do a dry run to be able to test out that system. All right, I'm not seeing any additional questions, so thank you guys very much. We're going to end the webinar here. If any questions come up, by all means, reach out and we're happy to help. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.